Hey everyone, Marshall Couch here. I wanted to take some time to talk about some considerations when deciding to automate a task. The particular things I want to talk about right now are the time it's going to take to automate it and when you'll see value returned from that automation, and also the ongoing maintenance to consider. Right now, I'm on a site called xkcd.com. It is a webcomic that has some great points about programming, physics, science, things like that. He does have a few charts that I think are very valuable to RPA. This one being probably the most valuable, and then another one we'll take a look at in just a second. The webcomic is hilarious. You can kind of think of it like a Dilbert sort of deal, but it can be a little crass at times. So you've been warned. If you want to look into xkcd.com, I would recommend it, but keep that in mind. Let's talk about this chart here. It might look a little bit complicated at first, but let's just read through it and see what's going on. The title says, is it worth the time? And then here it says, down below that, right here, how long you can work on making a routine task more efficient before you're spending more time than you save. Or how long can you work on making a routine task more efficient before you're spending more time than you save. And this is across 5 years. So if you want to see a benefit within 5 years, which is kind of a long time, this is the most amount of time you want to put into it. So let's look through it. So let's say you do something daily, and this top is how often you do the task, daily, and you spend 5 minutes working on it. So 5 minutes, how much time you shave off, 5 minutes daily. So you automate a task that takes 5 minutes and you do it daily. You can spend 6 days working on it. Up to 6 days working on it, and it'll pay off in 5 years. Just because you do something very often doesn't necessarily mean it's a great candidate for automating. A 5-minute task that takes more than 6 days to automate, and even if you're doing it daily, is probably not worth automating. So let's say you do a task, 5 minutes is how long it takes, and you do it weekly. Then you only have 21 hours to devote spending to it. That's really not a lot of time when you think about it. So whenever you're automating tasks for yourself, keep in mind how long you think it's going to take to automate and how much time you're actually spending doing it. Just because you spend 8 hours doing something monthly does not necessarily mean it's a great task to automate, because then you have to think about how long will it actually take me to automate. For example, with that specific example, we don't have 8 hours on here, but we do have 6 hours. So if you spend 6 hours doing something monthly, you can spend 2 weeks automating it. And you'll see a payoff in 5 years, which again is kind of a long time. Something that we haven't been thinking about with this particular graph or this particular chart is, what about the ongoing maintenance? How often is this task going to have to change or be updated based on what I'm doing? So he does happen to have another chart that kind of speaks to that a little bit. And this one is a little bit more funny. The title here is Automation, and right here it says, I spend a lot of time on a task. I should write a program automating it. And so here is the ideal situation. You work and then you add some work because you're automating the task, but then your automation takes over and then you've got a lot of free time with it. But what can happen is if you automate a poor task or automate something that needs to change regularly, or maybe it's a little bit more difficult than you had originally thought to automate, you start out doing your work, you begin working on the automation, you go up here to where you're trying to figure out what's going on with it, and then you just spend a bunch of time working on the automation, and the joke here is there's no time for the original task anymore. So whenever you're choosing a task to automate, keep in mind how long you can spend before it no longer becomes productive. If I've got a task that takes 5 minutes and I only do it once a month, that's definitely not a good task, because if I want to see value from it in 5 years, I've only got a very short amount of time to spend automating it before I should have just kept doing the task. Now, there are situations where maybe automating it is a little bit more fun than just doing the task yourself, or you're just trying to learn how to automate better. So maybe it makes a little bit more sense to think of that as, well, I'm automating something, but really I'm learning. So the learning is what's more valuable here. The key point is don't spend 20 hours automating something that's going to save you 15 hours over the next 5 years. It's one thing if you have to work all day on Monday. It's another thing to work all day Saturday and Sunday so that you only have to work half the time on Monday. Just some things to think about when you're picking what you choose to automate. Hope you find this useful. Thanks for watching.